Hello, this is Nathan Dodge. I am the new Assistant Director of Out There Ministries International, and I would like to share with you some of the journey of how I have gotten here. I am 25 years old now, and I grew up in Montana. And as a 15-year-old boy, I went on my first mission trip down to Mexico. When I was down there, we were teaching Vacation Bible School, doing some services for the people, and some outreaches, and I had gotten sick and had this moment in the service one evening where I was in pain. I felt like I shouldn't even be there, but I was stubborn, and I was crying out to God and saying, I need more of you, God. And so what happened is, next thing I know, I found myself on my knees on the floor as if it was just me and God. No one else was there, and on my knees weeping. And Lord's presence just fell all over me and actually filled the room. And the pastor's wife was speaking, and she starts crying. And then I don't know what else happened, but the place was full of God's presence. And next thing I know, they're leading me over to a man in a wheelchair to pray for him. And he gets up and he starts walking. And it was just an amazing time. One of my first encounters with God. And so I began to fall in love and got hooked on missions and fell in love with seeing people touched by God. And so from there, I finished high school and went on to Morning Star Ministries, where I did 3 years in the school. Went on to Africa on a trip there. Went down to Haiti a couple times. Had an amazing experience. I finished my 3 years here with a trip down to Costa Rica, where I first spent time with Cliff, the director. And it was down there that I had a maturing experience with the Lord. He corrected me on some things where I wasn't quite living for Him at home. I was being a little bit lazy and doing what I wanted, not paying attention to what He'd put in my heart. And He told me that I couldn't go on the mission field for the adventure of it if I wasn't going to live it at home, if I wasn't going to live for Him. And so I made peace with that. That was a challenge for me. And then He also told me, once I had accepted that He was taking home on earth away from me, in the sense of home was now in His presence and wherever He would take me. And that was 3 years ago. I've spent the last 3 years learning what it means to live in His presence and to go where He leads me. And also, while I was down there, I spent some time with Cliff, and my first impression that stuck with me is I looked in his eyes and I saw that he had been with Jesus. I could see that. I said in my heart, this man's been with Jesus, and I'd like to be discipled by him. And so I tucked that away and graduated Morning Star. Went back home to Montana, and the next step was last year in 2013. I went off to train with YOM and went over to Thailand, Spain, had an amazing time, got to know God even better, saw Him touch a lot of people. And while I was in YOM, the Lord really surprised me with a very clear leading to go to Spain. And while I was there for 3 months serving, I began to get the call to long-term missions. And at that point, I'd been to 15 countries short-term, and was becoming a little bit dissatisfied with coming and going. And so the Lord was planting that seed. So after that trip, I come home to Montana, and I'm asking the Lord, what's next? And just wondering, where is He going to take me? Where can I go and stay? And at that point, I called Cliff and said, well, hey, it's cold up here. I heard you're doing some work down there. Can I come spend winter in Costa Rica, work with you a little bit, spend some time here from God? And he told me, well, hey, why don't you come down to Costa Rica for 3 years, be my assistant director, where you can be discipled and prepared and be sent on to wherever God takes you. And I had not expected that, and I had been longing, honestly, at that point for someone to disciple me. And so the Lord worked everything out, and here I am now in this place where where we're working towards the building projects and getting the Bible Institute, House of Prayer, and other ministry aspects established. And I get to work in the mission field while being discipled, which is just so amazing. So it's amazing to be here, and I'm glad to be on the team, and glad that I get to share with all of you this journey.